Wednesday, October 7th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights, tonight via Paletti.
Let's do this.
So one of the things about PAX was that there was a lot of swag to get. I mean, we had those, we still have those Bomberman rub-on tattoos that I've been putting on semi-regularly since PAX.
I don't know. I put on the skull, and then I don't think I put it. That's the only one I ever put on. I still have the rest of them, though.
Well, I put one on again for the New York Anime Festival. For some reason, it was just like, all right, I'm going to a con. I'm putting one on. I keep putting it on that same spot, like on my arm, like right on the tip of the muscle. I think I'm going to put one on at every con I go to until I run out.
Uh-huh.
I think that's going to be what I do.
Bomberman is out for the WiiWare, but I didn't buy it yet.
Why not?
Because we're not going to play it yet.
We could play it tonight.
I got too many other things to do tonight.
Like what?
I
don't know, this podcast maybe.
This podcast, eating dinner.
Yeah, dinner's
also,
overrated.
Plus,
Emily said she'd cook dinner.
Did she?
Yeah.
Is she going to bring it here?
Well, you could go over there, unless you're lazy.
I don't really feel like going anywhere.
All right, then.
I got stuff to do also.
But anyway, of all the stuff at PAX, you might recall that on the third night of Geek Night's coverage of PAX, or maybe I said it at another point, but I expressed how much I wish that I had one of those Fallout puppets.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was sort of obvious that was the best swag at the con. I mean, usually free swag, whatever, because it's usually just posters and other shit you throw away. But that was actually a swag to keep. And
they didn't give that many out. I mean, when you saw one, like, it was a rare event.
Well, it wasn't that rare. You saw them all over the place. But even though you saw them all over the place,
it was a rare event compared to the number of people out there. Like, you see 4,000 people walk by, and you see like 3 of them. They stand out.
It's like you would always see one, wherever if you looked, but there wouldn't per people. There weren't that many. There were a relative, very few number of them, and they were highly sought after.
And I can, throughout the con, a lot of people who didn't have them were always asking people, "How'd you get it?" And I went to the Fallout booth, and I'm not quite sure how you got this, because everyone seemed to get different things from that Fallout booth.
I know that from what I heard, everyone who went to the Fallout booth got this book. That was actually a really cool book.
Yeah.
But only some people who went to the Fallout booth got the puppet, as far as I know. I just had no idea what they did to do it. I don't know what to do.
Maybe
because I wasn't going to wait in that line to find out.
I was thinking maybe they beat Fallout in the 20 minutes or whatever, however much time they had to play the game.
I don't know, but some people got them, some people didn't. That's all you need to know.
But and if there's any doubt as to how cool these things are, the contest at Kotaku need no explanation. I wanted to enter it, but, like every time there's a contest at Kotaku that's cool, we don't enter it. We just look at it and go, man, we could totally enter that, and then don't do anything.
That's how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah. Also, we were way out of our league right away when I saw what people had submitted.
Yeah, well, I think because, most of those people submitting are either people with skills or people with lots of free time. And we have neither, at least not artistic skills. So,
But they had one of these things to give away. So I remember idly I said, man, if any of our listeners are awesome, you want to give me a Fallout puppet, I'll make it worth your while. And you realize that I did not expect in any capacity to get a Fallout puppet. I was saying, that's kind of like how
I wouldn't have given one to if I had a favorite podcast, I sure as hell wouldn't have given him my Fallout puppet.
It's kind of like when I emailed, say, Will Wheaton. I was like, hey, you want to be on Geek Nights? I didn't expect him to respond. Or like Patrick Stewart or Barack Obama. You know what? None of them responded. But I didn't feel bad that they didn't respond. It's kind of like, it cost me 30 seconds to say, hey, will you be on my internet podcast? And the worst case scenario is they hate me for the rest of forever. But
that's fine.
It doesn't cost me anything. I don't.
It's better than not knowing you.
I mean, it's kind of like, I guess, if someone goes to Atlantic City or Vegas, you don't expect to win unless you're stupid. You expect to lose. If you do win, that's great, but you expect to lose, and you expect to lose all the effort you put into this, and maybe have a good time. I don't know if I had a good time emailing Will Wheaton, but I had a little bit of a good time saying, hey, listeners, give me this thing. Not one, not 2, but 4 people offered me Fallout puppets within about 12 hours of that show going up.
The only answer is that the Fallout puppets are cursed.
Well played there, clever girl. But
the Frogurt is also cursed.
I can say one thing. The first offer I got was quick and from someone awesome. The second offer I got was just almost as quick, but it was more awesome in the end. The third offer was shady, and I'm not going to say who, like the name or anything, but shady dude, no, I'm not going to pay you a large sum of money for the Fallout puppet, and I feel as though you were going to acquire it by underhanded means. It was just a shady email.
Yeah, it sounded like the kind of person who was going to take money, then go on eBay and buy one with that money, and then send it to us and somehow profit.
Or possibly scam me. My question
it's
is...
like, I could have done that, dude. What? I don't need you to do it. You're not...
Yeah, it was really scammy. But the fourth email sounded legitimate. Now, I feel like this might have been one of the one times in my life where I felt like maybe I should just take advantage of the tiny amount of fame I've got and get 3 Fallout puppets. But
what
then
are you going to do with them?
I'm going to parade them around. But then I realized that might be evil. So I told 2 of the people.
I have 5 PS3s.
I told 2. Daddy, 2 PP. So I felt like, all right, I'm not going to ask all these people for Fallout puppets. I'll ask one person. And then I decided to ask a second person just because I wasn't sure and I wanted to make sure I got one. And the fact that I'm holding one in front of my face right now, fondling it gently, is testament to the fact that I got one.
Testament that you fondle little boys.
Well, it's not really a little boy. Mister's never played Fallout.
It's, your fantasy.
What, playing Fallout? Yes, it's my fantasy. I really, really want to play Fallout 3.
I played Fallout 1 way back in the day.
Fallout 1 was great back in the day, but it does not stand up to
it was terrible back in the day. I tried to play it, and I died immediately, and I couldn't tell what to do, and the game made no sense. And
but you also had trouble with Quest for Glory games. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm in this village.
I didn't have problems with Quest for Glory.
Yes, you did.
It's a point-and-click adventure. You click on the guy, you talk to him.
Yes, and I remember you saying specifically, I didn't know what to do or where to go, and then I gave up.
Well, yeah, I went around the whole town and talked to everyone, and there was no hint as to what my quest was or anything or any, usually when you play that kind of game, it's
if you talk to the adventurer guy, he's like, want a quest?
Great. But I played Fallout 1 again recently, and I got out and I killed a bunch of rats. That was okay. I went out, I started walking to go somewhere. It said, okay, I had to go to the west something, and then it was just like I couldn't, and I died, and it sucked. So I don't know why people like these games, because I don't think they're that good.
I like them.
I think it's the situation where it's like open-endedness is cool, right? And the idea of open-endedness is awesome, but it usually results in bad game because there's not enough direction.
See, I guess for me, with
you just
Fallout,
get lost and you don't have any motivation or care, and then you die, and then it sucks.
I guess I didn't have this problem. Now, a lot of games have this problem. Like Grand Theft Auto, after I shot everyone in town, I had no reason to play.
It's funny because I barely played the newer 3D Grand Theft Autos, but in playing the old 2D Grand Theft Autos, I never had that problem. But in Fallout,
in the 3D
I had that
one,
problem.
I actually had a lot of fun, but only by entering the give everyone guns and make them pissed off code. But with Fallout, the game was great, and I had no trouble thinking of where to go and exploring and enjoying myself. The only trouble I have is that the game was good for the time. But like many old DOSy games, it is unplayable in the modern world. It is a game that is the way it is because the gaming was the way it was back then. And gaming like that cannot be done today. And that game, if you gave that to a kid today, they wouldn't even know it was a game. They would be like, what do I do? What the fuck is this?
Yeah, I can't really take too much of that, especially the bad user interfaces. It's like I remember back at RIT, I tried to play some Baldur's Gate game or something, right? And it had it was okay. I was actually having a good time. Walk around. It's a little bit of D&D, Forgotten Realms, whatever the hell it was. I don't know.
I believe you mean Forgotten Realms.
Right? That's what I tried to say. Talk to a wizard, go around.
Put on a robe and wizard hat.
Yeah, go around, use my, thieving skills to steal stuff from people's houses, that sort of stuff. And it was actually cool how, it was almost D&D-ish. If you stole, the police the guards would show up, right? And it was actually hey, this game's pretty smart. But as soon as you got into a fight, it was turn-based combat, but it wasn't actually pausing between the turns. So it's you had to constantly pause and unpause, and the interface of it was just so painful. I quit immediately, and I died. First of all, some spiders killed me. So I came back and I went in there and the spiders killed me immediately again. And I was just Well, all my stuff is in there. And they told me to go in there and fight the spiders, so shouldn't I be powerful enough to fight them now and not get killed in one hit?
Did you ever fall into that trap that I remember when I was a kid and I first got, not Chrono Trigger, but Legend of Mana?
And this wasn't even like a cave or a dungeon. This was the shed behind the lady's house that had a spider problem.
No, but did you fall into the trap of maybe it's one of those fights that's scripted where I'm supposed to die and then the plot happens?
No, I
remember
thought I was supposed to win, and I always just got killed, and I actually died, and I actually came back into the game, and my dead body was in there, and I had to try to get...
I remember a Legend of Mana, like a difficult boss. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to die. I get it. And then I died. It was game over. And I'm like, what? Oh my God, this game is going to be hard.
Yeah.
I never beat that game. But anyway... Some games just really, like XCOM, barely, the goodness of that game barely overcomes the interface. The interface is almost unplayable. But the game is,
actually, you know, I realized I always had trouble playing XCOM, even though I liked the idea of it.
Well, let me put it this way. The interface is counterintuitive.
Right, because the interface was terrible. And I realized in my most recent playing of XCOM that I didn't know what most of the buttons did. So I'm like, okay, Rim, just tell me what all the buttons do. And as soon as I was told what all the buttons did, I can actually play XCOM pretty well now.
However, I note that it took a good 15 minutes to explain what all the buttons were, which maybe that's a problem.
That is quite a problem, yes.
Anyway, so...
And not to mention the fact that if you made the game now, you could easily make the interface much better.
Oh my God. XCOM needs an like, of all the games that need a remake, XCOM, not all the... I mean, there were remakes of XCOM. They're almost all terrible. They just need to take the original XCOM and just remake it times 1,000. That game would satisfy me for like a year or two.
Yeah, I got enough games right now that I don't need anymore for a long while.
I'm holding this Fallout puppet in my hand, and I gotta point out that, you know, the people who sent this Fallout puppet to me, which, by the way, was the Gothfather from the forums, but it wasn't really him. It was him by proxy. It was Kristen, his fiance, who acquired this puppet at PAX. And by the way, we met the Godfather. These people were totally cool. We hung out with them before the Beyond Dungeons and Dragons panel in line, and I kind of wish we'd been able to hang out with them more at the con, but I imagine we will see you guys at the next PAX.
PAXes?
PACES is the way you spell it. But anyway, they did not just send the Fallout puppet. They did not even expect anything in return. But first, this box comes, and it's gigantic. And I'm like, okay... Maybe they just wanted
Is that puppet bigger than I remember?
The puppet is pretty big, and it's really kind of, like, it's surprising how emotive it is, and I've been playing with it a lot, and I want to do something on the internet.
Grim likes putting his hands up the little boy's bottom.
He's not a little boy. Anyway, I mean, look around my room. I have more stuffed animals than you'd expect from a 26-year-old guy.
I have more than you.
I don't think you do anymore.
Yeah, I do.
I have the cactuar. Well, I guess I have more high-quality stuffed animals.
No, you don't.
Baby dragon.
I won.
Tachikoma. Cactuar. I think I win.
Nah, I got Cthulhu.
Yeah, Cthulhu's not in your room.
I got Boo.
Yeah, you have that Boo. It's pretty good. I got the one-up mushroom, though.
I got a Charmander.
Anyway, did not just include the Fallout puppet. There was MapQuest directions from where it was shipped. Well, from PAX to Chico, but I'll get to what Chico is. And then to the Geek House. And there's a little note, just in case he gets lost on the way. Carrot 3, Kristen. That's adorable. So that's not all. There's a postcard from Chico. There's a collection of ultra fancy Sierra Nevada mustards.
I don't like mustard.
Well, that's because you're stupid. And this was to me, not you.
Why didn't they give ketchups?
I'll get to that. See, I'm getting to a lot of things, but also included was something that I'm intrigued and frightened by. It is TJ Farms Kiwi Hot Pepper Jam. And I look inside.
Hot pepper jam?
Kiwi hot pepper jam. Ingredients: kiwi, sugar, vinegar, red pepper.
And jam.
And, well, it is jam. But the note basically explained that because I, quote, like to put weird shit on my sandwiches, here is some weird shit to put on my sandwiches.
Well, you do. Maybe you should put that on. Actually, that could go on a grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese? I'm thinking of putting it on the sandwich I had today, which is a toasted bologna.
Yeah, not feeling that.
Also included is something that almost made me sick because I ate all of them within about 30 seconds. It was like cinnamon, sugar, and honey-covered almonds.
Oh, I've had shit like that before.
Yeah, but these were like all of those together. I've never had on one almond.
No,
Oh
you
my
can
God.
get those at the Adams, I think, across the river.
See, I've seen like honey covered almonds. I've seen cinnamon covered almonds. I've never seen cinnamon, honey, sugar covered almonds.
I'm pretty
But
sure
anyway,
actually I had some.
Last and certainly not least, a multitude of T-shirts from Chico State, founded in 1887. Chico State apparently was for many years Playboy's party college of America.
Why do you guys go to a party college? Don't you want jobs and money?
All I have to say is this care package that came with the Fallout puppet went above and beyond the Call of Duty. And my hat is off to
The
you.
Call of the Duty.
All I have to say is
Call of the Duty.
that was awful.
Yeah.
That was utterly, utterly awful.
That's
I don't
the
know what I
point.
can say to that.
That is the point.
Seriously, you guys are awesome to a degree that I really can't begin to express. So I will talk more about you in the future. And if anyone says, hey, Rim, have you sold out? I've totally sold out to these two people.
Well, I think what they've done here is they've sort of set the standard. So
Wait a minute. Is this the standard for bribing Rim and Scott? Or at least Rim?
no, it's not a bribing standard. It's just
I've been bribed. I will do almost anything
it's
you guys
the standard
ask.
of cool. It's like, well, they are obviously cool. If you're cool, that means you can do as good as or better than that. If you do worse than that, we're
But
going to
Scott,
look down on you.
Wait a minute, Scott, but
It's a bar has been set and it will be raised.
But Scott, the implication here is that do as good or better than the bar is giving us stuff.
Yeah.
So there's some implicit demand hidden in all that.
What? No, you don't have to give us stuff, but if you're gonna do
If you're gonna
do
give us
something,
stuff.
it doesn't have to be giving us stuff, but if you do something, it has to be that's the awesome level you're going for.
But anyway, Kristen is also the co-host. This is actually totally
It's
a plug
reverse limbo.
of This Modern Death. Welcome to the dark side of gaming, and I'm totally plugging that right now.
All right.
Yeah, but I'm totally sending them a Geeknights care package in return. The problem is I don't have enough Geeknights stuff, and there isn't really enough Beacon stuff unless I go to the Beacon Barkery to send back.
You'd be like, here's the t-shirt, a Geeknights t-shirt.
I guess I
and,
could sign it. I could send a poster. I could sign that.
And
I could send the
here's
old-
a map so the Geeknights t-shirt doesn't get lost.
I could send like one of our old microphones and sign it, but they're terrible microphones we bought at Radio Shack.
You don't want those.
Yeah.
Just throw them out.
Well, one of them smells kind of bad.
Well, what do you want?
Well, after Scott did something to it.
Nah.
And other things. If you listen to an old episode of Geeknights, I won't say which one, you'll hear on the air when Scott did that thing. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I do this in lieu of gaming news because,
Oh, in lieu of gaming news?
well, for me, because what am I going to say? I'm done with Team Fortress 2 for real?
Well, you are.
I actually am.
Of course, you're lying because you play it again and again, and you were trying to get me to play it again, and I was done with it a long time ago.
All right, fine. Here's
months
the news.
ago.
I'm actually done with Team Fortress 2, and here's why. I said I was done with it a bunch of times. I had all these reasons, but I actually got a couple emails from people. Basically, they weren't saying I was wrong about Team Fortress 2. They were calling bullshit on the fact that the game is so easy and that I'm so good at it. So I played it until I think I'm absolutely as good as you could possibly be at it. Now I'm done. So if anyone wants to challenge me, I'll set up some 3v3, maybe some 6v6, forum only. But other than that, this game is done, and I've transcended it.
I'll just be playing natural selection like I've been
I've been playing natural selection all week. And in fact, when the presidential debate begins tonight, I'm going to be skulking during it and watching it.
I'll just be skulking and not watching.
In fact, because I have the mixer set up, maybe I will pump key presidential debate items into it to confuse people while I bite them.
Maybe I will just bite people and not pay any attention.
Well, maybe while you're biting, you might hear Barack Obama saying something inspiring.
And maybe I'll bite him.
Okay, I'm kind of rambling here. So, what do you got in actual gaming?
Well, if we
news?
could talk about gaming news, right? We haven't done it in a while. We got it. You can't talk about anything but the DSi.
No,
right?
I guess you can't. The thing I point out, this was a rumor like 2 weeks before the news came out, and I noticed that a lot of people were calling bullshit on it.
I was calling half bullshit on it. I wasn't sure.
I wasn't, because the source that broke the news, I did a little bit of research, and they have broken like 2 other similar newses ahead of time and been right.
Uh-huh.
That's all I got to go on, but I believed it. I just thought it was stupid.
Well, basically what they're going to do is like Nintendo is coming out with the DSi. Obviously, it's the next generation of the Nintendo DS, right? It has 2 cameras.
Wait. What about the third pillar? Where's my next Game Boy?
I don't know. And basically what it is, right, is it's got bigger screens, it's smaller, whatever, right? It looks a lot like the DS Lite, except there's a camera on the back of it, right? So you can like hold it. So if your friend is sitting across from you, that camera points at them. It has a camera in the middle facing at you. So you can actually be cameraing whatever's in front of you and yourself at the same time. I don't know if at the same time, but at least it makes it easy to do webcams of yourself, but also to take pictures of things.
Now, I'm not going to make a joke about this because it's not funny, but they've added a camera to a Nintendo product, a Nintendo DS. Now, there's a camera for the old like Game Boy, whatever. In fact,
yeah, the Game Boy camera for the original Game Boy. It had a printer, too.
Yes, and you know what? It was terrible, but a lot of people
pretty
bought
cool,
it.
though.
It was really cool. It was terrible, but you know what? I won't pretend that I didn't want one desperately.
I didn't want one that badly, but I remember...
I wanted it with the same gusto that I wanted that TV tuner for the Game Gear.
But I remember I got the Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, the greatest version of Super Mario Brothers ever released, for the Game Boy Color, and it had special features for the printer and such, and I was like, oh, man.
But I point out something horrible. You realize that what Nintendo has done is that the next time, people aren't going to be picto-chatting anymore. And, you know, the joke is dicto-chat, but it's just going to be actual pictures of people's genitalia as opposed to simply crude representations.
And it's going to be a lot of kids that we're going to see inappropriate children genitalia. It's not going to be good.
You realize you're
going to be very bad.
You're going to go to some gaming con. You're going to, maybe not PAX. Well, yes, definitely PAX, but at least there.
Some guy's going to go in the bathroom and go click, 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 and then everyone's going to see
Bathroom, Geeklight in the pocket, DSi in the pants.
Great. Rim's got the whole strategy figured out to show the world his dick.
You realize that in order to combat these problems, you must become the source of the problems. You must become the 14 to 99-year-old male and what they are thinking when they are presented with a camera and a semi-anonymous means of distributing photographs.
You know what's weird, though, is that, you know, with like iPhones have cameras, but you don't see this sort of stuff happening because it's, you know, the only way you can distribute your photos is with like Flickr or something where it's attached to you and an account and such. But this is a way for people to like, you know, share, you know, pictures anonymously in sort of real time nearby. And we'll see exactly how they regulate the picture thingy, but it could be dangerous.
Well, part of what I realized something. The reason there's so many penises in PictoChat, like I came up with actually a really good reason. Now, granted, this ignores the fact that penises appear in every possible... look at how many penis creatures there are in Spore. If there's any way to interact with something, someone will try to make a penis out of it. But I realized whenever I use PictoChat, it's actually so difficult, unless you are an artist, to do anything worthwhile in it. You can't actually have a conversation. It's impossible. You can't actually, in any way, impart anything meaningful to anyone unless you are an artist taking turns drawing art at each other.
Or unless you do it really slowly.
But then it doesn't work. It's not actually worthwhile.
You're better off talking.
But you can draw a penis in like 2 seconds.
Yep.
I think that's it. And if you can take a picture of a penis, well, that's even faster.
I mean, some people say that the reason, you know, for AOL speak, you know, and all the mistypings and shortenings and using like the letter B, you know, the letter B, the number 4, and then the letter U instead of, you know, actually spelling out before you and stuff like that is because people don't know how to type. So in order to speed up their communication, you know, I mean, when someone talks, they, you know, on a phone, they just talk as fast as they can. It's the same as talking in real life. But when they're typing, if your typing skills are limited, you're going to be inefficient at typing, and the communication is going to feel slow and frustrating, and thus you will, you know, change, you know, and your spelling and whatnot in order to speed it up to where it's tolerable. And I think that PictoChat is just intolerable unless you're communicating really stupid shit, and thus, you know, the medium defines the message, and the message becomes stupid because that's the only message that people feel good about communicating through that medium.
The term we were one of the terms that's related to this that I was given in one of my classes at RIT a long time ago about user interaction with stuff. It's an affordance. You have been afforded the ability to communicate very crude genitalia at one another, but you have been given really no other ability. So thus, the only thing people do is present crudely drawn genitalia to one another.
All right, so the DSi, right? It's going to play DS games. They took out the GBA slot.
Which, no one would have not seen this coming. Notice how every iteration of these Nintendo products cuts out like the furthest back compatibility.
Well, actually, no, look, the Game Boy, original Game Boy, right? Okay. Then the Game Boy Color, but they were so worried about backwards compatibility. Let me tell you, this is how Nintendo learned their lesson, right? Game Boy Color had backwards compatibility with the Game Boy 100%. They came out with, and they said, you can make games that are DX games. DX games would work with the old Game Boy, but they would also work with the Game Boy Color and have better color on those. But then there were Game Boy Color only games that had even better color but weren't backwards compatible. Most companies opted to make DX games, and very few people felt the need to upgrade to the Game Boy Color because the advantages of the Game Boy Color weren't that great. There were very few Game Boy Color only games, even though I bought the Game Boy Color and had a bunch of those games.
Yeah,
Some of them pretty good.
I think a big part of it was just that the Game Boy Color wasn't better enough.
Yeah.
The color was basically not color.
Yeah. So then they came out with the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance could play every Game Boy game ever, but Game Boy Advance games were just so far superior, right? That people ended up mostly playing those. And the SP was the same way. The SP could play everything. But the Game Boy Micro, it could only play GBA games. It couldn't play GBA or Game Boy or Game Boy Color games or anything.
Man, I feel like the Game Boy Micro was really cool. But, like, there was never a point in my gaming cycle where it would have ever been a worthwhile product.
Yeah, it's like, I like it that it's so small, and, you know, I kind of would want one just because I like the hardware, but it only plays GBA games, and that's it, and that's kind of useless.
If it had come out, like, a year, about a year earlier, even if it had cost, like, twice as much, I might have just bought it.
If it played Game Boy Color and Game Boy games, I would totally buy one.
Even though you'd have a cartridge bigger than it sticking out of it.
That's fine. And then the DS came out, and the DS could also only play GBA games, but also DS games, obviously. The DSi only plays DS games, but it has like an SD slot, apparently, they say.
Yes, they say.
And you put something in a DS slot, and then you can go and basically, much like WiiWare, you can, or the Nintendo, the Wii store, you can go to the DSi store, buy games online, and download them onto your SD card, and then play them off of the card. And they're going to make, DSi only online games that you can buy and play on there. And that's pretty enticing. I like that action.
Basically, this if I weren't as cynical as I am, I would have said, this is it. This is it. Finally, I can just download games to my DS, and I don't have to worry about buying cartridges, and everything's going to be digital, and I'll just use my Nintendo points to do everything, and I'll synchronize it with my Wii, and everything awesome is going to happen. But I know Nintendo's going to come up $1 short, 1 foot behind, just short of glory, as they always do.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the situation, right? It appears that, this is going to be DS games still coming out, and DS games will work on everything, right? But it looks like there are going to be DSi games on cartridge. At least that's what the sources are saying. And apparently those DSi games on cartridge, unlike DS games, if you buy a Japanese DS game and you play it, you can play it on any DS. Every DS works with every other DS. But DSi games are going to be region locked. So you won't be able to buy a Japanese DSi game and play it on a US DSi if it's a cartridge game.
But one of the best things about the Game Boys was that there was no region locking.
Actually, the old Game Boys, depending on which...
Well, back then it didn't matter because you couldn't get the games anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Australian people actually had a really hard time with old Game Boys.
Have Australian people ever not had a really hard time with
the DS?
Gaming?
They don't have a problem. The DS, everything is region free. Every DS game in the world works with every DS in the world. Well, that's the problem of living on an island far away.
Well, technically, we live on a really big island far away. It's just we also make everything here.
Our island's big enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the DSi. What do I think about the DSi? It's not out yet, so I can't give like some final opinion. I've bought every Nintendo portable, so far.
Remember, I was like 50-50 on if the DS was going to fail or not.
Yeah, I bought the Game Boy Color the day it came out, the Game Boy Advance the day it came out, and the Game Boy and the DS the day it came out. I upgraded to a DS Lite way after the DS Lite came out. I never bought a micro or an SP, even though we have them lying around. We have an SP lying around somewhere.
But we only bought the DS. Like, part of the reason we bought it on opening day was that it's either going to be the next thing and it's going to be awesome, or it's going to be another Virtual Boy.
And of course, it was awesome. But
yes, but it could have been a Virtual Boy.
The thing about the DSi is that I have a lot of Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and DS games. And while I'd like to get in on this DSi action, my DS Lite is actually really new. I have like the Cobalt Blue one. I bought it that recently, and I don't really feel like replacing it when I have a lot of games still yet to play on it. And, you know, even though the DSi might have awesome, it's like, great, now I'm going to have to carry more things around to be able to play all the games that I have. And, you know, I guess if I had a DSi and I could somehow find like an SP that is like brand new, the later edition SP that had the better screen, then I'd be able to have two things that play everything. And I would guess that would be the best situation, you know, because I think the SP we have now is one of the old SPs, the shit screen. That's not worth it. I want one of the later SPs, you know. But anyway, but yeah, I think I'm just gonna hold off on the DSi until, you know, it proves itself to be so amazing and so great that it's to pay it. Plus, they're talking a price that's close to $200. It's like, come on, an Xbox 360 is $200, right?
You know, honestly,
I think they said less than $190, which is like,
My real feeling here, I mean, I have a lot to say about the DSi, but I'm going to wait until there's more news. Maybe we see one, you know, all that business. But it seems like it's really targeted more at the Japanese audience than the American audience. I feel like this is designed to cause everyone in Japan who plays Nintendo games to buy one. And then the one that's probably going to really get traction in the US will be the kind of DSi.
Yeah, this is indeed true. I mean, the DSi is coming out in Japan way before the US. I don't think we're even going to get it for much, you know, middle of next year.
The camera, like all that, it seems like it's really just meant for the kinds of things that Japanese gamers and Japanese people do with gadgets much more than Americans do.
Yeah, this could end up as one of those things like, you know, the Famicom disk system where it's a big hit in Japan and we just don't get it here because it's not for us. It's only for, you know, that other market.
Well, I can say it's really...
that'd be okay with me.
It's just, it's not for me yet. I imagine even if, you know, they have, downloadable content, that's just like a big cash cow for them as far as I can see. And I don't really want to start buying rehashes of games that I've already bought on the Wii and already bought, you know, 5 or 6 times throughout my life again, just to have them on my DS.
Yeah. But yeah, Nintendo definitely learned its lesson back with the Game Boy Color that if you try to fool around with backwards compatibility and try to stick to it too much, then people don't go forward. And you have to sort of go forward and still have some backwards compatibility, but also not other. You know, you have to keep something and drop something to keep people going forward. Otherwise, they'll just, you know, hang back as where it's safe. And that's why that they've removed the GBA slot from the DSi, because of the lesson they learned with the Game Boy Color. And, you know, even though they learned a lesson and they're probably right business-wise, they're not getting my money-wise.
Things of the day. So, I'll be honest, I hated Line Rider. I thought it was a terrible game. It wasn't fun. And
well, it wasn't really a game as much as it's a lot like MS Paint, only more specific.
No, but not even. My problem is the people acted like a lot of people really got into it. But basically, all they would do is draw. Like, the drawing was mostly unrelated to the line riding part. Like, you'd make your line work, and then you just drew all this unrelated stuff everywhere else. I saw very few line riders that took advantage of it, I guess, to the degree that it could have. And I don't really understand the hype. I never liked it. I never saw anything in Line Rider that ever impressed me.
Some things, it was basically, I tried to do Line Rider a couple times, and it was so difficult that the fact that anyone actually got it to, you know, do stuff, you know, meant that they had a lot of patience and a lot of free time.
I guess it's just more that it was two unrelated things. It's like you make a Line Rider work, and then you draw a picture with this really simple program. I'd rather just go to like an Okaki board and watch what people do. But anyway, this made me like Line Rider. This is the real Line Rider. And I thought actually randomly the other day we were watching Xiao Xiao. Remember the old like stick people fighting kung fu?
I don't know if people are old enough to remember those.
This was the biggest thing in the world back in the early days of the internet. I mean, like stickdeath.com and all that. And
stickdeath.com is classic. I was looking at that shit in like 97.
I know. These things are terrible. Like it's not like they don't hold up today. It's like you look at them and you're not even sure that they exist. It's kind of like you're looking at something so insignificant and so unentertaining.
Oh my God, stickdeath.com still exists?
Yes, it does. I was there this morning.
Oh my God, hold on. Archive 1 early gifts.
Yes, all the ones that you remember are there. But anyway, someone took this kind of thing, the old stick death style, animation, whatever, and they combined it with Line Rider in a fairly clever way, and I found this mildly entertaining. That's all I really got to say. So, Scott, what is your thing of the day?
Well, it's basically just a picture. It's a simple picture. You know, someone painted it or drew it or whatever, and it's a little mashup of two nerdy things that people enjoy. But it is a humorous mashup, and it's just a picture. You look at it, you laugh, you close the window.
It is extremely high quality and a little subtle, but not too subtle.
It should be. If you don't get the joke, why you're not the kind of person who should be listening to the show. So,
right. But anyway, Via Paletti. Well, I guess we could count this as another PAX show now, because we've talked about PAX a bunch, and now we're going to talk about the game we found at PAX.
Well, it's not a game we found at PAX. I knew about this game since 2002 when it won this Field is Jar. That's when I found out about the game, and I saw a picture of it, and I said, wow, that game looks like a weird... You know, it doesn't look like Jenga, but it's a bunch of wooden pieces stacked up, so you say,
oh, and by the way,
that probably plays somewhat similarly to Jenga.
I'm going to say something now, and people might hate on me for it. Jenga's not a good game.
No, it's really not.
Jenga's a terrible game. There are much better games that have the same mechanics.
I mean, as a kid, we didn't actually play Jenga. We had an Uno Jenga. Well, it wasn't Uno Jenga. It was Uno Stacko. It was similar to Jenga, except you didn't just pick a piece and move it up. You rolled a die. And if the number or the color matched, you know, just like Uno, then you had to move that color piece up. So it had this sort of random element, and it was a little better than Jenga. And sometimes you would roll and have to move two pieces at once. Oh, that was rough. Anyway, so Via Paletti is a game, and you look at it, and you see a bunch of wooden rods, right, that are and you see plates, these weirdly shaped plates that are in between the rods, making this kind of weird tower. And you say, what's up with that? And I saw this game in 2002. It won a Spiel des Jahres, Game of the Year, best game pretty much in the whole world in the year of 2002. And I was like, what is so great about that game? There must be something great about it. But I never got the game. I never investigated further. Until PAX, I saw it there. And I said, you know what? All right, we're looking for a game to play. And I like to play new games. Because even if it's a bad game, I like learning new games. I like opening new boxes, seeing new pieces. Right? Rim doesn't like to waste time learning new games. He'd rather play a game he already knows.
I'd rather exercise the competitive and strategic parts of my brain other than the memorization and rules remembering parts of my brain.
Well, you do one and then the other. But anyway, Via Paletti was a game that I knew was a Spiel des Jahres. I'd never played. Right? And since I knew it was a Jenga type-ish kind of game, I figured we'll be able to learn this really easily. And because Jenga-ish type games are pretty impressive looking and they have, a lot of suspense, like Topple, even, crappy old Topple, even has suspense when it starts to wobble a whole bunch. So, it'll get a lot of attention. It'll be easy to find other players, etc. So I pulled it out of there. I said, we're doing it. Fuck it. We're doing it. We pulled it out. Here are the rules of Via Paletti. Very simple, right? They're so simple I can tell you them on the show. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I'll tell you the basics. You have all these rods. There's 4 different colored rods: green, blue, red, and yellow. Okay? Each player is a different color. If you have 2 players, each person takes 2 colors. If you have 3 players, neutral color, whatever. You put a plate on the color on top of all the rods. On your turn, you take your rods and you want to bring them up on top. So all your rods are under these plates, or at least on the lower level. Maybe the plate isn't covering them, and you want to move them up. Because when your rods move up, whatever rods are on the top level count for points. Whatever rods are not on the top level don't count for points. All right? So you have one rod that's worth 3 points. That's a big one. You have a rod that's worth 2 points, the hex. And you have 3 rods that are worth 1 point each, 5 rods. So you want to move the big ones up first, right? Now, the big ones are, of course, heavier. They also have more surface area at the top and bottom. And remember, the rods that you're moving from the bottom of the tower to the top of the tower are the same rods that are holding up the plates. So not every rod is going to be able to get moved up, because if you pull every rod out, the whole thing falls down, and that's then what you lose.
And
right?
pretty much it seems to come down to, at every level, you will have 3 pillars left, or it seems like about a third of the time, they'll end up with like 2 pillars at the bottom.
In the very first game we played, me, Rim, and this other guy at PAX, right? we got the thing, right? We were building and building and building and building, and we were on like the third plate. Because after you put up a bunch of rods, when no one can move rods anymore, you start putting plates on top of the rods. And we were on like the third plate, and the thing was getting crazy. And then I pulled the rod out from the lowest level that wasn't pulled out earlier in the game. So now there are only 2 rods on the lowest level holding up this giant plate full of rods above it.
Very frightening.
It was very frightening and very suspenseful and very awesome.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those tension followed by screaming games. And basically, it'll be nothing but tension. And then the tension will either be punctuated by, oh my God, I can't believe you pulled that off, or, ah!
Yeah. I think the thing about this game is that the bad thing about this game is that the rules aren't really specific. You sort of have to be fast and loose with it.
Well,
right?
the thing is, I feel like you could play it different ways. I mean, the way I read the rules, if you just read them at face value, you can't so much as cause another pillar to move, touch another pillar, anything. You pretty much have to play this game like solid. However, unless you're a surgeon, that's pretty much impossible. But you can pretty much just play, like, agree to a set of rules with your friends and run with it and never look back.
Yeah. The only other problem with this game is that the turn order actually matters a lot. Like, whoever is the first person to put a rod on whoever gets to play, the first person to put a rod on the green plate has a significant advantage in winning, because it's going to be pretty much impossible for anyone to beat them and score until another plate shows up, unless they screw up or something. And there's a good chance that the entire thing will fall over before the next plate shows up, and thus the odds of that person winning are very good. So unless...
See, I don't think that's true among skilled players.
No, not among skilled players, but I think... in general, that is being the first person to put a rod on a new plate has a significant advantage.
See, because I feel like the strategy is very simple. The game goes between stable and unstable states, and what you want to do is you count ahead. You have to pay attention to the turn order and who is going to be able to move things up and who won't be. You have to position your pillars to try and prevent the people who would otherwise take the lead away from you from being able to, because they won't be able to place. They'll have to place the plate, and then you get to place the thing on top. And then you want to make sure that you want to actually make the thing really stable, unless you know that you're going to be the one, based on your previous positioning, to place the rod first on one of the big plates. And you try to, if you know that's going to happen, then you try to destabilize it, and then once you're in the lead, you basically try to make the thing fall over without actually making it fall over.
Right, because if you have the high score at the present point in time, and you and someone else knocks it over, right? And if there's 4 players, that's 3 out of 4 people knock it over, you win. So if the thing is wobbly, right, and you're in the lead, you don't want to knock it over yourself, because then whoever was in the lead before you were in the lead is the winner. But you want to keep it wobbly so that someone else will have a much greater chance of knocking it over, and thus giving you the victory. But if you aren't in the lead, you want it to be super stable, unless it's only wobbly on the turn of the person in the lead, so they'll knock it over, and if you were in the lead before them, you'll win. I don't know if that made a lot of sense, but basically, if you have the high score, it's in your interest to fuck it over and try to not get the thing to be unstable and blah, which in some ways is correct from a game, perspective. There are 3 people trying to keep it stable and 1 making it wobbly. It's probably going to end up stable, and it'll be okay. But at the same time, it's sort of more fun to build a crazy tall tower that's all insane.
You keep saying that, but I win this game like almost every time we play it.
I won quite a few times.
Not so many. I tend to win because I tend to actually use strategy.
We haven't even played it that many times.
Yeah, we haven't, but I've won a good majority.
Like 2 or 3 times.
We played it more than that. But anyway, the reason is I actually pay attention to the strategy, and the game is actually kind of strategically deep. But if someone like Scott is trying to just build it tall, it's really easy for me to win because I just get in the lead and then destabilize it, and then I win.
Yeah, the thing is, the only way to... You think, the way to get in the lead is to move your bigger stuff to the top level, but like everyone does that. So it's not really about, I
don't always move my bigger stuff to the top level right away.
Oh, you got to.
No, sometimes I feel like I can stay behind because you can use the bigger stuff and put it in a safe spot and then not move it up right away as long as you know it's still safe, protecting it with your little guys. and then you have it free after you've trapped someone else's, or you've got it now to use to destabilize the thing or stabilize it at the proper moment.
That is one of the big key things about the game is remember each plate is someone's gonna have to stay behind on the lower level. So you sort of, when you're putting your new guys up on the next plate, you want to put them sort of on top so that they're putting a lot of weight onto someone else's pillars so they won't be able to pull them out. But you also want to keep the whole structure as a whole, solid or unsolid, depending on your current status in the game. And those two things might be in conflict with each other. So you got, you have three people moving pillars up before it's your turn again. You don't know how it's going to go. And sometimes, you got to leave room, you can control, a lot of the plates are kind of small, so you can control where there's enough room to put something on the plate. You crowd the plate out and then, shit, there's nowhere for me to put anything on the plate and good stuff like that. I don't know. Anything else? If you play, the game is really, really fun. I could play it like a bajillion times.
I'll say this. Even if you don't like those typical German board games we always talk about, this game is 1,000 times more fun than Jenga. Much quicker to set up and play, much quicker to tear down. This is like one of the best party games ever. Like if you have friends, buy via Paletti. There will always be a time where you will have friends around who will want to play this game. Yep. A frat house, having this in the frat house, especially if you make it a drinking game, you replace the pillars with shot glasses or something, tall shot glasses, you can have some fun.
Yeah, the only problem is the game theoretically has a 2-player version. The problem with the 2-player version is that all the strategy of the score and everything like that is gone, and it's because there's only 2 people, it's whoever makes it fall over loses, and the other person wins.
I don't think that's a problem at all. It's just a different game. Instead of worrying about, this pillar is worth more points, you only worry about, I want to stabilize this pillar for me and yet destabilize it for the other person.
I didn't say it's a problem. I just said
you did. You very specifically said the only problem.
It's a different game, and I feel like Puerto Rico, even though it's a slightly different game,
it's a completely different game.
But it's not that completely different. This is like super completely different. It's like it's like change football to flag football. Okay, different, but football to baseball, completely different. Right? So Puerto Rico 3 and 5 player are different the way flag football and football are different, but via Paletti 4 and 2 player are different the way that football and baseball are different.
I don't think they're that different.
I think they're pretty different.
Because it really just comes down to you're free to place your... In fact, I think it's more fun in a lot of ways because you're just free to use the weights of the pieces to your advantage in stabilizing and destabilizing and building, as opposed to also having to play this meta strategy game of the points. I enjoy the 2-player game more, and I wish I could take the fun of that and transfer it into the 3 and 4 player game better.
No, I like the 3 and 4 player game better with the point strategy and whatnot. And the thing is, in the 2-player game, also the turn order matters a whole lot more because there's only 2 people, so it's like whoever goes first is probably going to be the person who puts up the plate, and then
Have you done your counting?
Yeah, because you both have 10 rods, right?
Yeah. I'm just asking if you actually calculated or if you're just kind of shooting from the hip.
No, I calculated.
Okay.
Well, maybe if there's 3 rods left, then maybe
don't forget the neutral rod rules.
That's only if there's 3 players and not 2 players.
Well, 2 players, it doesn't matter. You just play. No one has an advantage at all.
Well, it depends. If you're the person who has to put the plate, then the other person puts the first rod, and then they have a big advantage in the game because.
How do they have a big advantage? I think putting the plate is a much bigger advantage than putting the first rod.
Putting the plate is a big advantage.
In the 2-player game, it is definitely more of an advantage.
No, I think it's.
Why? Because points don't matter. Why? Yeah, you didn't think this through.
It's all right.
Yeah, how? Yeah, you're just going to sidestep that? The presidential debate is coming up, and I think Scott has learned much from it. I think perhaps that your performance is prescient of perhaps everything that's going to go on tonight.
Well, you must enjoy my performance so much then, because you're going to spend your time watching it, and I'm
not watching the debate tonight. I saw the format. This debate is a joke.
Well, that's what you were saying earlier.
Until I saw the format.
Anyway, I want to talk more about Via Paletti because I feel like we didn't say enough in this podcast, but there isn't that much more to say.
Well, no, here's the next thing you say. I'm not going to bother because basically our friends have not played this game enough, but the show would go at this point to anecdotes of the crazy Via Palettis, like the time you had one pillar holding the whole thing up.
Yeah, or the time you actually got pieces up on the final plate, the red plate at the top, and you actually had to put pieces on top of pieces.
That's the cool thing. It's like the rules just keep going. If you run out of plates, the only place to go up is to put pillars on top of other pillars directly.
And then you can even put pillars on top of those pillars if possible.
This game is just so fun and so short. There is no one in the world would not enjoy this game. Buy it. If you don't buy this game, you're dumb.
Yeah, it's also pretty cheap. Now, the one problem is we have the, I think, University Games edition of the game, right? That's the publisher. And a lot of people have published this game around the world. You know, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different publishers listed on Board Game Geek, right? The version we played at PAX, I think, was the German edition, right? I don't know who published it, but it came in a yellow box. It had much better artwork, much better pieces, much better everything. And the version, the University Games edition that we got, I bought it at funagain.com, is not as high quality. The plates are not as, quality. The rods are actually okay. The board that goes under the bottom, the thing that goes right on the table, the cardboard disc, is a lot worse than the German one. And in a game like this, right, the manufacturing quality of the pieces matters so much. If you get if I'm playing, say I buy a Settlers box, right, and one of the cities is a little deformed, or I buy Carcassonne, and one of my meeples is losing
all the colors, green has the gimp.
Right, has a gimp. One of the meeples is gimped. He's got like a broken head or something, right? He's
weird.
He's
just smaller than everyone else.
Right, it's like, okay, there's a manufacturing error and one of the meeples is broken. It doesn't affect the game in any way. The game is just fine. You could have all gimped meeples and it wouldn't make a difference as long as they're all the right color, right? In a game like this, the manufacture of the pieces matters more than anything. If one of your rods, like if a green rod is gimped a little bit, it's a little bit short or a little bit tall or a little bit lopsided, that kind of ruins the whole game.
See, but at the same time, if it's within reasonable tolerances, it kind of adds to the game as long as all the pieces are within the same tolerances.
Yeah, as long as they don't have to be ultra precise.
No, because then everyone has this one's a little short, this one's a little long, and you start to, if you play with the same set a lot, different colors will have different play personalities.
Actually, if all of the plates were perfectly flat and all of the rods were ultra precise and flat and the same exact height and the same exact weight, it would kind of make the game bleh and kind of not so good because then,
See, actually, I don't think it would because if it was like that, it would be a perfect game and it would be just as fun for different reasons.
It would be, but it would be different reasons. And I think that the reasons that the card game is fun would be sort of, like a lot of times you'll go get on your knees and you'll see that the plate isn't even touching a rod. There's a rod that's just sitting under a plate completely untouched with no weight on it. But if the rods were all flat and the plates were flat, you wouldn't have that going on. And there'd be a lot more friction, a lot more instability. It'd be a lot harder to get the thing to go up higher.
Actually, there'd be a lot more stability, not instability.
Well, there'd be instability, not the building itself would be more stable.
No, because you're allowed to hold the plate when you remove.
Yes, but the friction would still, there would be more friction going on.
It would
and
be
a lot
more stable.
fidgeting.
Your argument of it being unstable is BS.
No, there would be instabilities from other sources as opposed to structural instabilities.
I think the only source of instability is when you're removing pieces. But since you can hold the plate, that's really not a concern.
Well, no, but you can hold the plate, but the friction might cause wobblage.
Actually, I think it'd be less likely to cause wobblage. However, I have a better idea. I would like to take a set and make an alternate set of pieces where everyone has one slightly longer and one slightly shorter of the little pillars.
But then the long ones would all get stuck on the bottom.
No, but then the game would get weird because you'd get
the short ones would move all the way up to the top.
Not necessarily, because you'd get tilts. Like if there were a small number left at the bottom, you pull one out. Now it angles down and is resting on the short one. And then the whole thing's tilted. You could, if you figured out the correct tolerances.
You couldn't do it tilt because all the rods are flat on the top and bottom.
It would still tilt because remember, they're kind of warped anyway. So I think it would work really well. I've actually
the difference in height would have to be incredibly small.
I'm talking about no more than 3 millimeters at most.
It's a tough call.
I've put a lot of thought into this and I think it would work really well. Also, considering the other games, we played the German version at PAX, and it came with a flyer with all the other similar games, like Hamster Rollin'.
Oh, yeah, all those, there's apparently a whole bunch of games that are like this, that are basically wooden blocks, balancing kind of games. And there's one, Hamster Rollin', was this big hamster wheel that rolls around and has all these little shelves in it, and you put blocks on the shelves to get it to roll to the left or to the right. That game was looking pretty cool. I want that game.
The implication is definitely that Via Paletti is the best of these games.
Well, it did win a Spiel des Jahres. None of the other games did, so...
But still, I feel like because I saw the way those games were put together, and I saw how stable this game ends up, even if everyone plays like really stupidly, you could really mess with the pieces and the game would still work just by the math of it.
Yeah, the fact that our sort of poorly put together set, right, still works really well as a game shows that, the construction doesn't need to be perfect to get it to work.
But yes, I feel like we're running out of steam here. Via Paletti is awesome. You should play it. And I'm going to go to bed.
I'm taking a look at Hamster Roll here. It's looking pretty cool. Oh, man. Oh, it's a lot bigger than I thought.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.